and welcome to a terrible, terrible week 4 for New York football. I am today's host, Gabe, along with Walt here. This is the Jets and Giants show. Um, it's going to be a little bit of a rough one, just like week 4 was for both New York football teams. We are without our regular host, Jose, today. Hopefully, we'll see him back soon. Um, but before we get into everything, before we get into the misery that it was this week, don't forget to like, rate, share, and subscribe. If you're returning, thank you. If it's the first time, thank you. Hit us up with that subscribe button so that we can continue growing, bringing you guys all our reactions. And yeah, speaking of reactions, Walt, how are you feeling about this week of football?
This week of football was about as bad a week of football as you can have. Historic even. And so, before we get into it,
Historic.
historic because in the football era, this is the first time that both teams were at home and didn't score a single touchdown. The first time ever.
Oh
So
my gosh, I didn't realize that.
this was a pretty bad week because you
I
guys.
would say not. I feel like we've had worse football weekends, or weeks, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think that last year we had some pretty bad weekends. Maybe not historic as far as stats go. Um, this has like been kind of a bit of a funny season of stats. Because like
Yeah.
every week or every game, I feel like there's like a really funny stat. Like for example, I was looking at the stat that that I believe I guess CBS who was
Hmm.
hosting the Jets game
Yeah.
today.
Yep.
Um, like the stats in the beginning of the game, they kind of put these weird stats up there, or not weird stats, but notable stats. One of them being Garrett Wilson's the first rookie wide receiver for that Aaron Rodgers throws a touchdown pass to. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird stat. It's one of those things. Of like, that's a stat, but I don't know if it's one that's notable. Um,
Yeah. It was just you know what it is. I think the disappointment, especially with the two games, is that those games they were there for us. Like one play here, one play there could have changed the game and flipped the outcome. You know what I'm saying? And I guess it was frustrating because you saw that where those things could have occurred, and it's like, why? You know what I'm saying? So
it's funny that you say that because I think that both games were um not too dissimilar from each other.
yeah.
Maybe not so much, obviously, from the score point of view, but it was kind of the story of two quarterbacks that obviously, in some instances play well, and then in others just, you know, made a lot of kind of like the same mistakes, underthrow passes, made bad decisions, maybe miscommunication with the receivers and so on and so forth. Um, uh, but two very different scores at the end.
Yeah.
That being said, why don't we just get right into it? Let's go ahead and talk. Oh, what shirt is that you're wearing?
What was that?
What shirt are you wearing? I see the
Oh, this one.
Penn
Oh,
State football.
yeah. Over the weekend, yesterday on Saturday, or well, whenever on Saturday, because we're gonna release this cast on Monday. But
Right.
on Saturday, I made a trip down to Pennsylvania and actually caught my first college football game. We saw Penn State play against 19th ranked the Illinois Fighting Illini. So interesting.
I
It's
don't
a
really follow college football too much.
neither do I. You know what I'm saying?
How was the game? How was the experience? What was the score?
So this was actually the first time I tailgated. Also, I'm not usually a tailgate type of guy. You know what I'm saying? So we did the tailgate. We got to the stadium. I want to say like around 3:30, 4 o'clock. The game started at 7:15. So we had a good couple of hours tailgating and stuff like that. It's a very, very different energy and a very different vibe than an NFL football game. And I gather kind of the reason is, the NFL football games, when you tailgate, you see like super, super diehard NFL fans, right? Especially if the team, like if I'm going to a Jets game, you'll see guys that have been watching the Jets for like 40, 50 years and stuff like that.
Season ticket holders.
Right, exactly. And with Penn State, it's kind of weird because a lot of kids, so these kids are here for the semester, the 4 years that they're there and stuff like that. A lot of parents of those kids. So while there's like some diehard PSU fans, walking around saying we are Penn State, you know what I'm saying? um it just didn't have that like fanatical sense to it, you know what I'm saying?
I
um
see what you're saying. I think you're definitely painted the picture the right way, right? Because when we go to football games, there is like a whole fan thing that goes on and stuff. And I see like we got that video of like you at the game. That's directly from your phone, yeah.
yes, sir.
Um, so, but I can see how like this is more of like team school spirit, that kind of thing versus like true football fans. You got like
Exactly.
when you go to a Jets or a Giants game, it's a matter of like the crazy fans that make the experience a little bit more than right. So that's pretty cool. I see that it's kind of like a bit of a whiteout. Everyone's wearing white t-shirts in
Yeah,
there.
believe it or not, the whiteout game is coming soon, but everybody seems to have worn like white that day. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting,
White pants,
interesting.
white shirts, white hats.
All right,
Um,
let's get into the actual the pro leagues.
absolutely.
As we said, Giants met the Cowboys. Cowboys came and visited. There's another home game, another primetime game. Giants lose 15-20 to the Cowboys. In an interesting game for me as a Giants fan. That was my cat knocking stuff down because I'm not paying attention to her. You will probably hear more about that in the background. Um, but yeah, it was a very interesting game for me for a few reasons, and we'll kind of get into that when it comes to the quarterback play, as far as the offense goes, and all that stuff. But yet again, the Cowboys come in here for the 13th time, I believe, and just Dak Prescott just bends us over a barrel and kind of has his way, sort of. And I say
Yeah.
sort of because the last couple meetups have been total blowouts. This one was not so much of a total blowout. This one was a lot more competitive. I think the defense did a pretty good job against a top rate quarterback who has had his struggles this season in the Cowboys. But I think the defense did their job. The offense did not were not up to muster. Um, what are your thoughts overall on the game? And before we get into it, did you watch the game? Did you listen to the game? What was your take on the whole thing?
So ironically enough, I watched more of the Giant game than of the Jet game this week, only because the Jet game was happening while I was coming back to New York and stuff. And so even though I wasn't driving this time, which is a minor miracle, I'm usually always the one that's driving. Um, you know, there were dead spots here and there, just going from Pennsylvania to New York and stuff like that. So I couldn't really get into the game in that way. But the Giant game, I kind of watched the whole thing. And I guess if we're gonna go positives, the Giants kicker, the new guy that they got, I can't remember
Yeah,
off the top
I,
of my
I
head.
I actually don't
Um,
remember his name either. To be honest
yeah,
with
I
you,
think Greg Joseph is it? It might be
let me
Greg
go ahead
Joseph. I'm
and
not sure.
look it up for
Anyway,
you.
you can look that up while I talk about this. But he went 5 for 5, which is a good thing because that's something that had been lacking in the games before.
Correct, Greg Joseph.
Kind of the reliability of the kicker, right? But the negative is that he went 5 for 5 on field goals, and the reason I say that is because Giants didn't score a touchdown, and that again, we're going back to the whole missed opportunities here. That was a game that, like you said, it wasn't a typical Cowboys Giants game of the present, the past couple of games where the Cowboys come in here, or we go down to Texas Stadium and they kind of blow us out, AT&T Stadium, I think it is. This was a close game. The defense really showed out and kept Prescott kind of under wraps.
The,
And
the
so,
defense and the referees really showed out
right,
in some ways. So
exactly. But this was a close game. That was a game that the Giants could have clearly won, and it was just missed opportunities and stuff like that. And so I guess in that respect, it's a little disappointing, because you guys easily could have been 2-2 going into week 5 here, and that
right.
would have been amazing for you guys.
And we would have been 2-2 against not only one of our division rivals. It feels like our division we're very very strong historic rivals with each team in our division,
Right.
but more so because of recency, right? Like like trying to shed ourselves from that opening route last season where it was 40-0, and
Right.
then the second game last season they also killed us just as bad and stuff. So trying to shake away kind of the history, and I think that for the most part we did. Simply because our defense they didn't just allow them to do whatever they wanted to do. The job of
Right.
the defense was to hold them to 20 points and under, which they did. And the job of our offense is to get into the end zone, which we got to the red zone 5 times, but just or close enough,
Yeah.
4 to 5 times, but just didn't seal the deal. For me, the reason I say it's an interesting game is because, not just as a I don't want to say Daniel Jones defender, but I'm also not on the wagon of like hating on Daniel Jones the way that he has been. I say it all the time. Circumstances matter, and we'll kind of go into the Jets in a little bit, but perfect kind of example as I watched the game, and I'm not sure if you're going to get a chance to watch the game itself, but as I watched the Jets game, there were a couple underthrown passes that were caught.
Sure.
There was one specific pass in the second quarter, I think, to Garrett Wilson, where it was underthrown and behind Garrett Wilson. We had to turn and grab it basically off of the floor in order to complete the reception, which he did. There was a pass to the sideline, which was, a questionable. There was not a questionable a call on whether it was reception or not. They challenged the play, but it was inconclusive, so they had to keep the rule on the field that it was a completed pass. But it was very similar to the drop pass that Neighbors had on the sideline. And then right after that, another kind of low pass to, I believe, Lazard, where he
I,
had to
I
basically,
will
huh?
I will say this though, it's different circumstances and stuff, especially with the Jet game. And I'm not gonna we can get into that a little bit further, but the Jets were playing in like really, really bad inclement weather today. So,
Right, right.
that could have, affected some of
No,
those.
no,
So again, we're gonna get into that when we get
right,
into the
and I
Jets,
understand
you
that,
know.
and this isn't about the quarterback. I'm talking about the receivers, right? Because, for
Hmm.
example, Lazard has to basically sit on the floor to catch that pass right after that questionable pass to Garrett Wilson. And my point is that if the receivers on the Giants team were able to complete some of these tough passes, that sometimes a quarterback is going to throw some tough passes. If the
Hmm.
receivers are able to complete those passes, we're having a completely different conversation about Daniel Jones as a quarterback. And
Right.
that is the point that I'm trying to make about the Giants game,
So
more specifically Daniel Jones, I guess.
what I'll say about is this, and I'm not gonna be completely bashing Daniel Jones here,
Don't mind me
because
as
like
I
I said,
don't mind me as I have a little juicy cup,
juice
juice
box.
box.
Okay, it's okay. Do you need a timeout
It's
later?
banana milk. It's
Do you need
banana
some
milk.
timeout? You need a timeout?
It's not really juice box.
Nappy
Take a
time?
nap after. I'll take a
Okay,
nap
okay.
after.
Just checking to make sure. You know what I'm saying? But it's funny and it's interesting because I'm gonna go back to the Penn
Mhm.
State
Yeah, yeah.
game, right? One of the guys I was tailgating, he's a huge Giants fan, right? And so we got into talking specifically about Daniel Jones, and a lot of the stuff that he was saying was stuff that I kind of thought of, and was in agreement with him and stuff. And so the thing about Daniel Jones right now, and this already happened in year one of Brian Daboll's regime, if you want to call it that, right? Is that we're getting good Daniel Jones here, right?
Right.
And I hate to say it, but probably the thing that set this franchise back was the early success of that year one when they played relatively well that first half, and was able to win a playoff game. And Daniel Jones played relatively well. You know what I'm saying? He didn't make a lot of mistakes in that year, and this year kind of feels like that also. And the reason I say that is because Malik Neighbors is masking a lot of the issues that Daniel Jones continues to have, right? And one of the things that I feel with Daniel Jones, especially this year, which is surprising because usually in years past he's been better at it. His deep ball is not as good this year, and I don't know what the reason is. It feels like a lot of the throws, especially and even with the throw to Neighbors at the very beginning when he was wide open, if Jones had hit him in stride, that was a sure touchdown. But Neighbors actually had to stop and come back to get the ball. And that happened plenty of times during the game. And so what when I look at Daniel Jones, I look at Daniel Jones, and again, you know me, I've never been a fan of Daniel Jones, but I can give him credit where credit is
Right.
due, right?
I think you're a fair adjudicator.
Right. So Daniel Jones this year has been very good with the short to mid range targets, right? And he's taken advantage of the players that he has on the field. The guys like Singletary, the guys like, Slayton and Robinson and, Neighbors, especially, he's leaning heavily against. The problem he has is when they try and go deep, he can't get that ball out of there, or he's hesitating in his throws and causing it to drop short many times, right? I worry about with Daniel Jones that we're gonna kind of fall in love with him again because of the early success that he's having, and he's having success, no doubt. He's playing very efficient football, but I I kind of get afraid where the fans will kind of fall in love in Daniel Jones when I think it's really about time that you guys start moving on and look for somebody else because Daniel Jones, this is probably going to be the best Daniel Jones you're going to get. And this version of Daniel Jones is not enough to get you to where you guys really want to be. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I okay, I can concede and agree to that. There's a couple points that I would make. I would say that yeah, I think that the fans, over the last three games, the majority of fans agree that it's at least not all on Daniel Jones so far.
Right.
The last three games,
You got a lot
the
of
two
you got
games,
a lot of wide receivers that are dropping balls here. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And
the
that is
two games
not his
prior to
fault.
Thursday night's game, Daniel Jones had an over 100 point quarterback rating. I haven't actually checked what the quarterback rating for Thursday was, but he had at least on par, pretty good few games from a QB rating standpoint.
Let
I
me see if
think
I
that
can
the
find
fans
that number.
recognize, but I think that the fans also recognize that we're probably still going to be moving on from Daniel Jones. I don't see Daniel Jones being here next year unless they're looking to hold Daniel Jones for the next couple of years just to try to get Arch Manning. The only scenario that I see Daniel Jones still playing for the Giants is if the goal is to put ourselves in position to get Arch Manning in the 2027 draft, I believe.
Right.
That'd be the only scenario that I see the Giants keeping him and working draft capital, whatever have you, to put themselves in position to get Arch Manning.
Yeah, and just to qualify what you were asking before, his quarterback rating for this past game was 59.4. So
Mm.
not great. Not great at all. But it's weird because you look at the game and he looks like he's doing well, right? But the quarterback rating kind of shows. So it's a weird dynamic with Daniel Jones, right? He kind of passes the eye test, but statistic wise, he doesn't. And
Yeah, I
it's
I would say
always
I would
so
have loved
weird
to
with
have
that,
seen
right?
like what his quarterback rating was at the before that last drive where he's just throwing bombs and then catches that and gets that interception. Because before that final drive, he would have been 87% completion rating with 281
Well,
yards,
he
even though he had no
really.
touchdowns.
The
Um,
crazy thing is that game, he started on fire. Like I think he missed like maybe one. He
I,
had one incompletion and stuff
in the
like that.
first half, I
Right,
believe
and
he
the
was in the first half.
Giants.
He was 12 of 13.
Right, and the Giants didn't punt until like the third quarter. So
Right.
they were moving the ball. It's just once they so moving the ball between the 20s, they were fine. It was when they were getting into the red zone where you had some questionable calls. You wondered, why didn't they do this instead of that and stuff like that. That doesn't fall completely on Daniel Jones. You know what I'm saying? But it was like the game was like so weird in that
I
aspect. You
mean,
know what I'm saying?
so that I want to get into the coaching as well. My final point on like the offense and everything. It's also the fact that this is still just week 4.
Right,
In a 17-week season. Okay, 4 weeks plus a bye. That's 5 games. That's still 12 games. We're not necessarily out of contention yet. And if you look league wide quarterbacks are having issues. League wide, quarterbacks are throwing. I mean, I saw Patrick Mahomes throw another interception in his first drive, today. Like it is a little bit league wide, and my main thing with Daniel Jones is that judgment on Daniel Jones. I understand, but I do feel like it's a little bit unfair. Okay, when you see the same thing from other veteran quarterbacks, they maybe get like the shadow, the benefit of the doubt because they've already proven that they're good in the
right.
past.
And I think that's
And
what
so
it
I
is.
understand that. I understand
Yeah.
that. Now, when it comes to the coaching, that's where I have some questions as well. And if you remember, I think an episode or 2 episodes ago, I was already beginning to question Dable's coaching because
Right.
he's given me reason to kind of to wonder about him. If we're not having that much trouble within the 20 and we get within 10 of the end zone, why all of a sudden doesn't it not work? Why
Because
all of a sudden
because
do you not trust
because
your
they
your
get
your offense?
conservative for some reason. You know what I'm saying?
I
And and
think
and it's not even between the 20s and then your red zone. It's even within game. Like at the very beginning, it feels like there's
yes.
more of a an emphasis on trying to push the ball down the field and be a little bit more aggressive and stuff like that. And once you get toward the end of the game, it feels like Dayball is kind of like turtling up and becoming a lot more conservative in his play calling, which
I'll
is,
say
I
day
guess,
bowl, not day balls, because he
yeah,
doesn't have any
exactly,
balls to go for it when he really needs to.
exactly. And again, it's frustrating. And this is me not being a Giants fan, you know what I'm saying? But it's frustrating to watch because you can see that they're having success and finding ways to get things done, but then you get into certain situations and all of a sudden you pull back, and it's like keep going with that same energy all during the
Yeah,
game. That's working. You know
I
what I'm
don't get
saying?
it. Like I said in the beginning of the game, I texted the group chat to be determined. I texted the group chat that like I was like excited because I'm like, oh man, I think Dable's like just trying to run this defense down into the ground, knowing that the defense is so poor.
Yeah.
Again, going into this game, assuming that where their biggest issue is that they can't protect the rush. We got, what was it again? We got 20, it was 27 yards for the entire game, I think it was.
Ugh.
27 yards for the whole game. However, what's interesting about that is that, let me see, what was it? I can't see it now. Team stats right here. We had rushing yards. We had 26 rushing yards. But you want to know how many rushing yards we had? You want to know how many rushing yards we had at the half? Guess.
I can't imagine. Probably 20.
29, which means in the second half we went back 3 yards.
And see, that's the frustrating thing. And this is one of the things that really drives me nuts as like a an observant of the
Yeah, an
Giants, right?
independent football observer.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching the Giants from like afar, from like outside the window and stuff like that. The Dallas Cowboys run defense is abjectly horrible. And the best that you can muster was 1.7 yards per attempt. You know what I'm saying? There
Yeah,
should
I
have
don't get
been
it.
there should have been an emphasis on driving that ball down their throat. And
I do
it's
not.
just, I don't understand why we couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the Cowboys on a short week did not have padded practice. They had zero padded practice. You cannot tell me that they fixed their run defense
I'm
in 4
saying
days with no padded practice on the way to New
exactly,
York. It's impossible.
exactly.
It's
How
impossible.
the hell do you go into like I think they were the 30th ranked defense in terms of the run, and you cannot muster just even Pop Warner type stats. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and
Oh,
this is why, again, this is why I say that Dave will definitely, coach way too conservative. He knows that Daniel Jones can make those like short passes and all that stuff. He has confidence in him in that. He doesn't have confidence in the end. And then because he's so afraid of something happening on the rush, he didn't want to run the ball as much as he should have. If we look at last year, even with Saquon Barkley, a lot of those successful running games with Saquon Barkley when we had him on the team, it was Saquon Barkley getting 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards here and there, almost the whole game until there was a
boom.
breakthrough. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And
Hmm.
the only way that you're going to have those breakthroughs is if you keep trying to rush.
And where were
The
I think you were the one that mentioned it. Where were the design runs with Daniel Jones?
I don't
Because
believe
stuff like that opens up the running game. You know what
so.
I'm saying?
That's the other thing too. Okay, so you're not going to do the run, but then Daniel Jones's arguably best quality is that he can run the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, and you don't give me any quarterback design runs. Maybe there was one quarterback design run, but Daniel Jones rushed for a little bit. I don't know exactly. Let me see
I think
how
he
he
had 4 runs, 4 actual runs.
had over here. He had 4 runs, didn't really get much yardage, but those runs were all because of escaping the pocket and
Yep.
trying to keep the play alive. They were not designed runs. So again, Dable doesn't want to run the ball, doesn't want to design rushing for with the QB. And then when we get to the end zone, is just happy to take a field goal, doesn't want to take a risk to go into the end zone. And again, the biggest issue that I had with the play calling in the entire game was that fourth and goal. We were 3 yards away from the goal. In a game where in a drive where we did not fail to get yardage on a single play. The entire drive we gained yardage in every single play, and up until that point, if I'm not mistaken, we were 3 for 3 on fourth down. How do you not go for it there?
Yeah, I
I
know.
don't care if you don't get the touchdown. I do not care. I understand that you go for the points when it's a close game, but I don't care because show me that you're willing to go for it there, that you're willing to win the game versus hope that you win the game. You know? So that's where I was. And then on the defense, I again kudos to defense. Defense showed out. They did their job against a on paper a really good offense. And I think the defense would have done even more if it wasn't for our offense being on the field for so long. So
Yeah. I agree. I think and there is somewhat of a problematic thing here. Brian Burns didn't show up for this game.
he had
Um,
his name was mentioned a couple times. He didn't do a lot, but I know that there were a couple moments in the game where he didn't do much in the game, but there were a couple moments in the game where he finally showed up.
well, he didn't generate a single pass rush pressure in 25 snaps. You know what I'm saying?
True.
That is kind of a problem when the two guys that you're really depending on, meaning Burns and Thibodeau, to kind of complement Dexter Lawrence here, aren't performing as well. And even with that, they still were able to kind of keep the Dallas offense in check. So there are some negatives here in terms of the defense and stuff like that, in terms of generating a solid pass rush here and stuff like that. But by the same token, they were able to kind of keep Dallas in check long enough to be able to win this game. So
Yeah.
you can't fault the defense on this one because they did
No,
their
no,
job.
they
You
did
know what
their
I'm
job.
saying?
They did
They
their
did
job.
enough. They did enough to
And
keep that game close, and they did enough to make it so that the Giants could win the game at the end.
And
So
shout out to the offensive line. I have not seen. I don't actually think I've ever seen an offensive line play a single game beginning to end as good as this game was played from an offensive line perspective. And
yeah,
I'm talking about since the first day I became a Giants fan. Again, I became a Giants fan when Eli Manning got drafted. I don't think Eli Manning has ever had a good offensive line in his entire career. and I have not seen a good offensive line post Eli Manning. This is the best I've seen an offensive line provide protection for Danny Dimes or pennies, depending on what camp you're in. Play. So defense on point, offensive line on point. I think offense was humming, just couldn't close the deal. So those are my general thoughts, and of course, shout out to the rest for that face mask when we were pretty much. I think we were at the 20.
Yeah,
We were at the 20 off of our first drive. Face mask on the wrong team. On
I
the
I,
wrong
I
team.
just
It's
I
such
don't.
an obvious face mask. Now I can understand both players grabbing the face mask and you want to give it to the
It
first one to
wasn't even
grab.
that. It wasn't even that.
Not nowhere, not at all. So I can't believe how they took that away from us
And
and
I
took away
hate the
that chance.
fact that those type of calls aren't reviewable, because clearly that's why New York exists, right? New York is supposed to be able to say, okay, well, you know what, ref,
Expedited replay. What happened to expedited replay? Last year
right?
we heard expedited replay in the Super
But
Bowl
that's what
like
I'm
30
saying.
times.
That's what I'm saying. That's the reason why New York exists. So that when the refs, there's something wrong, that they see it, they can call down and say, "Hey, guess what, refs? You did something wrong. Here's the actual. This is what the actual should be." Unfortunately, that play is not reviewable. I think they really need to change that.
They need to fix
But
that.
I guess in a sense, the reason why it's not a reviewable thing is because it's so freaking obvious. When somebody grabs a face mask, you don't have to figure out who's the guy that did it, right?
See, but
So
I think that all plays should be reviewable.
yeah, I agree with you.
It's a matter of like some plays not being challengeable.
I
You
think
know,
I think what it is that if you make everything reviewable, it gives the possibility that you can slog the game down, and then all of a sudden every single thing is like, oh, well, we got to review this, or we got to review this, or
well,
you know what I'm saying?
what I'm
And
talking about with it,
it also kind of puts the refs, which they should be, in a negative light, which they should be, because they're going to catch a lot of the mistakes that they do. But you know what? For the sake of football, and the integrity of it, that should be a thing. You know what I'm
when
saying?
it's egregious the way that it is, it's for
Yeah,
this reason that it
exactly.
should be reviewable. So my belief is that everything should be reviewable. Certain things should be only certain things should be allowed to be challenged by the coaches, and the reason everything should be reviewable is because of the egregious mistakes. Now, if a ref makes a mistake that's kind of passable, sure, you don't need to stop the game and change the call or whatever. You can kind of make a note of it so that the refs can be better at their craft. But when they make a very, very obvious mistake that obviously sways the chances of a team winning, okay, that needs to be fixed. You know,
Yeah,
so
I agree.
um after this we got the Seahawks. We got the Seahawks next week on Sunday, in an afternoon game. I believe it's at 4, if I'm not mistaken. Um, I still have total confidence in this game. What I don't have confidence in is necessarily the fact that I think Neighbors is probably going to be out. If they're smart and they want to protect the one and only legitimate weapon that we have on this team, you honestly sit him out. Even if he passes concussion protocol, sit him out, or maybe just play him super limited. I would say don't put him out there so that he can potentially get hurt for the season. The Seahawks are a very beatable team, in my opinion. They have not had legitimate, what's the word, opposition in the last 3 games. In the last 3 games, they've barely squeaked out against the Browns, against the Broncos. No, that was preseason. That was preseason. Sorry, against the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. Now, Dolphins, they didn't squeak out, but the Dolphins are without Tua.
Right.
Dolphins are pretty much done for the season.
Yeah, they're goldfish now. So
Yeah, but this, but
they're
the
Nemo's.
Patriots, I mean, they win in overtime against the Patriots, 23-20, and then the week before that, they allowed the Broncos to score 20.
Yeah,
I don't think if we can get to the end if we can get to the red zone, as often as we did against the Cowboys, I think that we'll be able to at least replicate that against the Seahawks. So I think that this is still a win for us, a good chance at a win for us in this game. We'll see how they do tomorrow. The Seahawks against the Lions. It'll be their first legitimate opponent, in my opinion.
yeah, that'll be a big test for them.
So
So
on to the other side of the coin. The Jets. The Jets fall by 1 point to the Broncos in a game that last week I didn't even consider that they had a chance of losing. I
They
skipped
were
over and I asked you about the Vikings. How do you feel about the Jets versus the Vikings? Because I thought that this was going to be a gimme. In my
eight
mind, I thought there
point
was no shot
favorites.
that a rookie QB with a terrible offense was going to do anything against the Jets and this defense, which they really didn't. I just
Eight
didn't expect the Jets to not do anything
point
good.
8 point favorites. The Jets were
Oh my god, that's so
8 point
crazy.
favorites.
That's
This is
insane.
the
That's
this is the
insane.
highest spread that they've had, I think, since 2011.
This is so crazy that they
Eight
lost this
point
game.
favorites.
And not
Oh,
only that,
ugh.
I think there's a high chance that you guys also lost your QB for at least a game.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Really?
He spoke about it. He spoke about it in the press conference. He was like, "I just need a nice little hot tub session, and I'm
Hey, you
good."
didn't see it.
You know
You
what I'm
didn't see
saying?
the game.
No, I
I
did. I did. I did.
you
I
got home
saw.
in time to finish the end.
No, like I said, I was watching it on my phone, so there were times that it cut off, but I did see like the end of the game.
Man, I'm
So
telling you right now that the last drive, he when he was defending pressure on one leg. He was hopping backwards on his good leg because he couldn't plant that left leg.
yeah, he said he was fine, So I'm gonna stick with that and stuff like that. And you know
All
what?
right.
It's a different situation because if you told me that this happened last year, then I'd say, you know what, our season is done. But we have a capable quarterback in Tyrod Taylor who, for all intents and purposes, it may be a good time to actually bring him in if Rogers is hurt because you know what, it's a different type, a different pace that he provides. You know what I'm saying? He's a little bit more mobile than Rogers is right now if he's hurt and stuff, and maybe he can unlock Garrett Wilson. You know what I'm saying? But
Man, dude, I am officially dropping Garrett Wilson today.
I
I'm
wouldn't do that
done.
just yet. I
I'm
wouldn't do that
done.
just
No,
yet.
I'm done. You've been telling me
So
now for 3 weeks to just hold on to him, hold on to him. Let me see what he scored today.
watch
I
him,
really will.
watch him, watch him get unlocked this weekend coming when you drop him for your fantasy football game and he goes off for
Seven
like 10
points. 7 points.
catches.
He scored 7 points for me. 7 freaking points.
Well, here's what I have to say about this Jet game. You know what I'm saying? And it's this is one of these games where you have to look at it and it has to be, you have to try and not to overreact to this because it's still early in the season. And at the end of the day, the Jets are still 2-2, and in the AFC, everybody's kind of stuck in the middle. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of 2-2 teams, 3-1, 1-3. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's really pulling away except for the Buffalo Bills in that conference and stuff. So the Jets are still very much in it, but the thing that I take away from this is that the Jets had 9 days to prepare. They had time to get rid of to really dial down into this game. um 9 days to commit 13 penalties, 9 days to have a team where your quarterback throws for 60 yards and you allow them to run over you, especially at the end of the game. 9 days where, going back to your point, Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson are still not on the same page.
Yeah.
And 9 days where you've already seen that Braylon
Mike
Allen
Allen.
is your power back. And in a situation where you're first and goal on the one, you don't even put him in the lineup. And you run Brees Hall twice for either zero gain or little to or negative yardage. And not once did you consider to put Braylon Allen in that spot. And then when asked about it in the post game meetings, that conferences that they have, he says, "Oh well, that's something that we will consider going forward." Robert Saleh, what the fuck are you doing? You have a stud
Mhm.
there that has shown you that he knows how to push the truck stick. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
let's
And
not
you
forget
don't
that
put him
Robert
there
Saleh doesn't do
on the
anything with
1 yard
offense.
line. You know what I'm saying?
Let's not
So
forget that he doesn't do anything with offense, so he's not really the guy to ask that question to. So if he gave you the answer of someone that like doesn't want to say that like, oh, that's not my department.
yeah, but you know what? You're absolutely right. That does go back to Hackett, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't like the way Hackett runs this team. I like the way Aaron Rodgers runs this team. You know what I'm saying, in terms of the offense and play calling and stuff like that. But the packages, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Maybe Hackett is the guy that's drawing up this packages, but Robert Saleh, as a head coach, you do have the right to go over there and say, you know what, I want fucking Braylon Allen in this package right now because it's first and goal on the one. I want to run this ball down their throat, and you
Yeah, man.
couldn't do it.
I don't know.
I don't get it. I don't
And
get it.
there is something to kind of be said or maybe even investigated with your two star players on this team that are not named Aaron Rodgers, being Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall, having terrible seasons this season. Brees Hall, this game, he carried the ball 10 times. He got 4 yards.
Yeah,
4 yards. That's crazy to me.
but let
And
me ask
again,
you this.
Garrett Wilson, like, still not connecting with Aaron Rodgers. I'm beginning to wonder if the reason that Zach Wilson didn't connect with Garrett Wilson was more because of Garrett Wilson and not because of Zach Wilson.
Yeah, but you know what? Garrett Wilson had 1,000 yard receiving seasons with Zach Wilson. You mean
Exactly.
to tell me you can't
So
do that with Aaron Rodgers?
I
And
mean, he's not doing it with Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah,
and there were and towards the end there was some like really bad like miscommunications or just maybe
especially at
it's a
the very
style
end.
thing. Maybe it's just a style of how Aaron Rodgers likes to throw the ball.
Right.
Not physically, but like when he's gonna release it, when he plans on releasing it, how he wants his receivers to read him, so to speak, versus Garrett Wilson just wanting to like run to the spot that the ball is supposed to land to
And
because
right.
clearly receivers can catch Aaron Rodgers' ball. You got Lazard, you got Conklin,
Absolutely.
you have Williams, you got everyone else catching the ball except Garrett Wilson.
Well, see, and again, that goes back to the whole thing where it's like it's not Aaron Rodgers, it's Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson not on the same page because you can make the case that right now Alan Lazard is the best wide receiver on this team.
Yeah, I think that's
But
already kind of like
right, and but the reason is that he knows what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. You know, they've been doing this for a long
that's
time,
what
so
I'm saying.
they have that familiarity. And again, I think I said this last week. I'm going to say it again this week. Um, oh, nappy nap time.
Shut up.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, watching this Jets game, I definitely almost fell asleep.
Yeah. But you listen to Aaron Rodgers during the preseason and he's like, you know, it's a different speed that Garrett Wilson does. And Garrett Wilson has a lot more talent and attributes than Alan Lazard does. So Garrett Wilson goes at 1.5 times the speed that Lazard does. And so I don't think that Aaron Rodgers has kind of unlocked that yet and has, you know, that timing down with him. Because clearly, especially in the fourth quarter, there was one play where Garrett was going up the seam. And if Garrett just looked around, he would have caught that ball, probably maybe would have gone in for the touchdown. But he never turned around and Aaron Rodgers just whizzed it right by his ear. You know what I'm saying? So there's something that's not clicking with these two. And it's interesting because in the preseason they were kind of clicking better than they are now. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm,
the
they
thing
weren't necessarily. They were clicking better, but they were
in
also
practice,
there
in
was we
practice,
already know that we saw them having, I don't want to say disagreements, but conversation about like
right? And I
their
think that
connection.
has to do with that connection, right? And
Yes.
again, also in practice, right? So in practice is not the same thing as NFL speed, you know.
Right. Right.
But again, going back to the coaching here, you see that Brees Hall is struggling, and then every time that Braylon Allen is there and he's touching the ball, he's moving the ball down and he's moving
Yes.
that
Yes.
pile. Every time he gets hit, the man is falling forward 2 yards positively, right? So, you know, again, at one point, do you say, guys, we're seeing this as fans. Why can't you see that as a coaching staff where clearly Brees Hall, it's not his day? And that's fine. It happens. But you see that you have another guy who's having a day, why isn't he not being played more than Brees Hall? And I get it, Brees Hall's your cowbell running back. He's your workhorse and stuff like that. And Robert Saleh mentioned that in his post game. But you got to play the hot hand also. You can't be afraid to say, you know what? Yeah, you're my superstar, but right now that guy is working a little bit better than you. I got to put him in for the sake of the team. It drives me nuts because I think with Robert Saleh and his staff, there is this loyalty, which is something to be applauded for. I mean, but you look at the Zach Wilson situation just last year, where it's like you're loyal to a fault where it's negatively affecting the team, and so I wonder if that's the case here, and I'm hoping that that's the case because the flip side is then you as a coaching staff aren't trying to maximize the talents of your players, and that's far worse in my opinion.
Maybe I think it's more the tale of these two stories where it's a matter of like if you're trying to win the game, you're going to go with what's winning you the game so far versus the fact that it is still early and the old sports principle of like you in basketball you shoot to stay hot and you get the ball to get
Yeah,
hot. You want your player to get hot, you got to keep giving him the ball until he gets hot. Otherwise he's never going to get hot. So it could have been something more like that. Like keep giving it to Brees to try to see if he can like work through it, make it happen.
yeah,
You
but
were within the margin. It's
it
only 10
wasn't the
points that
day.
your defense has allowed. So you were within that margin of like, hey, like keep giving it to him and whatnot. It's not like you were down so much that you had to only go with what's been giving you success so far. So I don't know. I don't know exactly if it's that they're just trying to get Brees Hall involved in order to get him going, or if it is a loyalty thing. But one thing that I want to ask you about, this has been the worst that your O line has played all season.
Yes, it
You
has.
guys
Yes, it
allowed
has.
5 sacks
Yes, it has.
in this
You know,
game, and again, I understand it's rainy conditions. I would say it wasn't. I can't say that it was rainy conditions for the whole game. I think about half to 60% of the game was mostly rainy conditions. I don't know how that impacts the line. Obviously, I understand how that impacts the ball and ball movement.
I'd have to take a look at the game more closely. Like I said, I was watching it on a, a 7-inch screen. You know what I'm
Right, right,
saying?
yeah.
So I couldn't really see everything that's going on. But yeah, I wonder if the Morgan Moses injury also played a part in
Where does
this.
he play again?
He plays right tackle.
Okay.
So for him, we had the rookie in there and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So now like I said, I'd be curious to go back and watch the game on the bigger screen to see exactly where the pressure was coming from and stuff like that. And
If I'm not mistaken, from what I can recall, and I could be just like 50-50, but this is just kind of like what I'm feeling, is that some of those pressures were allowed by Fashanu. And the last sack, I know that the last sack was a blitz that Aaron didn't pick up.
right, and it came from the left side, and
Right.
that one was on Hall because Hall was expecting pressure up the middle and didn't account for the guy on the outside. So that was more of a running back mistake, in my
Mm-mm-mm.
opinion. You know what I'm saying? He just didn't read the assignment correctly. But I do know that Tyron Smith didn't have the greatest game today.
Yeah.
And if what you said is true about Fashanu being the culprit in some of these things, well, then you look at the Morgan Moses injury and say, well, you know what, this is a greater problem than we thought because Aaron Rodgers was in a bit of pressure today, and after the injury, right, it was even more pronounced because he couldn't run as well as he could before. You
Don't
know what
don't
I'm saying?
put injury in air quotes. My man had to be helped up. My man was grimacing. My man was holding his leg. My man was
It's
getting massaged on the
football,
side.
bro.
It ain't no
It's
injury in
football,
air
bro. You
quotes. It's
get
not
hurt.
injury in air quotes. It's injury.
No, it's football. It's
Okay.
we're not sitting here having tea and crumpets and talking about the latest fashion notes. It's
Yeah, no, I
football.
know.
You
I
get
know.
hurt. You know what I'm saying?
No, no, I
That's
know you
just the
get
way
hurt.
it goes.
And what does it mean to get hurt? To
If
get
it's an
injured.
If it's an injury, then that means you're missing weeks. We don't know that yet.
We'll
So, and
see. We'll
again,
see. He might be like, "Oh, I'm
as
fine.
he
I'm good.
left, he
I'm
said
this."
he's heading to the hot tub. So,
Yeah,
you know what I'm
we'll see what
saying?
he
He's
says.
doing
Yeah,
the hot tub
we'll
thing.
see what happens. We'll see what happens.
So, but
A
anyway,
hamstring pull does not. Hamstrings do not heal
I
with
don't think
just
it's
a
a
hot tub.
hamstring. I really don't think it's a hamstring. I think it's just, you know what? It's a cold, wet day. You know what I'm saying? You didn't have a really good chance to warm up and stuff like that. Being the factors of the weather and stuff like that. I think it's
No,
just a
but that
matter
injury
of.
happened on a sack.
No, I know, but it doesn't matter because you know what? If you're not loosened up, if you're playing in a cold, damp thing, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna be more susceptible
Well,
to getting hurt. You know what I'm
this
saying?
is the
That's
last
just the
thing
way it
I'll say.
goes.
I'll leave it at this. This happened in the fourth quarter. My man is warm.
It's okay. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Listen, when you're sitting because your defense can't stop a running back from gaining yards, and that team, which had a rookie quarterback that threw for 60 yards. Oh, I'm going to throw an Eli thing here. He is the first quarterback to throw that few yards and win a game since Eli Manning did it way back when. And I think, hold on, I'm going to tell you exactly when it happened. You know
He's
what I'm saying?
also the only quarterback in this game that threw a touchdown.
2007, when Eli beat the Dolphins 13-10, he threw for 59 yards. This dude threw for 60. And oh, by the way, they ran all over him. So think about this. You know that they're not going to throw the ball. You know they're going to run the ball, and yet you let that defense let them run all over him, especially at the end of the game when it counted. So I hate to
I'm
say
not.
it.
I
This
said I'm
was
not saying anything
this was
anymore
a very,
about this
very.
injury.
I know,
Okay, we
but
will find out.
as a
Okay,
fan, as a fan, and I hate to do this, but this felt like same old Jets. You know what I'm saying?
it
Because
did a
it
little bit.
was
It
it
did.
was a game.
This felt like same old Salah.
Yeah, I agree. You know what this felt like? This felt like that game against the Patriots where Zach had to come out. The game where he was like, fellas, it's wet out there. I couldn't throw the ball. That's what this game felt like. It felt like we were still replace Aaron Rodgers, put Zach Wilson in, and you know what? The game is indistinguishable. That's what it felt
That's
like.
kind
And
of that's scary.
it
That's
is.
scary.
And you know what? It's annoying. It's frustrating. It pisses me off because you know what? We should be better than this because we have Aaron Rodgers, right? We should be better than this because we're supposed to have this all-star offense. The offensive line has been revamped. We got Brees Hall. We've got Garrett Wilson. We've got Mike Williams. It pisses me off because this defense is supposed to be all world. They're talking last year, oh, we can be as good as the Bears. Where the hell were you today?
You know
Because
what?
it
I'm gonna
looked
give you.
like you were
I'm
the
gonna hit you.
bad news Bears.
I'm gonna hit you with a loaded question.
Hit me with it, because I'm on fire right now. Hit me with it.
Who was the better quarterback this weekend? This week
In terms of what? Bo
between the
Nix
Jets and the Giants.
and you know what? The fact that I can't honestly say,
Really? Are you?
no. Listen, before you get crazy. The fact that I can't definitively say it's Aaron Rodgers should tell you everything about how the Jets played this weekend.
That's very true.
Because
I mean, the
because
score should tell you everything that you need to know.
yeah, exactly. There is no again, don't take this the wrong way. There is no universe where you say Daniel Jones is better than Aaron Rodgers.
No,
Right?
yeah, no, come on, of
Okay.
course.
I can't say that this week.
I'm talking. Yeah, I'm just saying this week.
I
I'm not
can't say
saying that
that
at
this week.
all.
But you know what? It's not totally Aaron Rodgers' fault, right?
Right? It's not.
Because some of those players, and like he said again, I'm going back to the post game. You need to hold those players accountable. You know what I'm saying? And some of those players did not play well today.
Yeah, I
Brees
agree. I mean, I
Hall
think
dropped a bunch of
the
passes.
circumstances are important.
Yeah.
The weather definitely played a
Oh,
big
it
part.
definitely had a factor. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
just surprised. I'm still not even just surprised. I'm more like in shock
But let
that
me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Denver won. But yeah,
The Jets, right? Everybody's saying there's a specific place that they're going to in January. Like book your tickets because we may
I
see
don't
you
know anymore.
down.
I honestly do not know.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. But book your tickets now. New Orleans, here we come. That kind of stuff. As a team that is supposedly forecast for great things, this is a game that you should find a way to win, and you didn't.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's the thing that's concerning. Again, it's week 4 in the NFL. We've seen the Chiefs falter at the beginning of the season. I'm not comparing the Jets to the Chiefs. We've seen the Bengals falter,
How are
and they righted the ship, right? So not time to overreact, but there is somewhat of a concern.
I think
Somewhat.
that you guys are still a lock for a playoff berth.
I do believe
But
that
I
too.
believe that the only way you guys go to New Orleans is if you're taking a layover on the way to Cancun. Because
Well,
I
listen.
don't see you guys. I don't as the team is constructed right now. I don't see you guys as Super Bowl contenders, and it's not. And when I say constructed, it's not personnel. It's
So
personnel and their coaches.
I think Gabe, I think we should make this a weekly segment. Um, what's going on with Hassan Reddick? Because last week,
I completely forgot that he's even an issue.
right? That's what I'm saying. Last week it was, oh, we're fine. We don't need Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick is probably looking at the game and saying, "Crap, what are we going to do?" Right? This week, where the Jets got practically no pressure, practically they didn't get any
You
sacks.
didn't get
You know
no
what I'm
sacks. You
saying?
got no pressures.
Now all of a sudden you flip it and say Hassan Reddick's like this.
I don't think
So
so because
you
again,
know,
he only had 60 yards passing. He
yeah,
didn't
I
have
know.
any pressures. He had no sacks. But
But in
in
terms of
what pass rush scenario did we need Hassan? Did you guys need Hassan Reddick today?
well, I think it may have made a difference and stuff like that because remember Hassan Reddick is not only just a pass rusher. He's good in the overall game, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean,
And
that's what you
that's
got.
and that's something that maybe just maybe could have helped in the running game this week. Will McDonald, as good as he's trending to be, he's not great yet. You know what I'm saying? He's still one dimensional. He's still a pass rusher
Correct.
and a pass rusher only. If you put him, if you put Hassan Reddick in there, maybe it's a little bit different because Hassan Reddick is a 3 down player. Hassan Reddick, you don't have to take out when you know that they're going to be running the ball. You know what I'm saying? And he can
Right.
he can play very well. So that's why I say, Hassan Reddick, maybe he's like this a little bit because
Maybe.
now this week it's flipped from last week where it's like last week we don't need you. This week it's like
I don't know. Well, we'll see. Look, this is the official. Well, it's not the end of week 4 yet. There's still plenty of football for us to watch, and we still got Monday Night Football tomorrow night, or tonight if we're releasing on Monday. Um, but you could say that this is the official end of the unofficial preseason. If it takes 4 weeks to get ready to play proper NFL football, Hassan Reddick needs to start training this week. He needs to be practicing this week because it's going to take him 4 weeks to get up to speed, also, which
and
means
listen,
that by these metrics, he's not going to be a viable, pass rusher until week 8, 9. And I don't know where you guys have your bye, but I don't see Hassan Reddick playing for the Jets.
no, I don't
I
either.
don't
But
see
but
him
the thing
playing for the
about it
Jets this
is
season. I think that he's a total idiot with the amount of money that he's losing. Shit. Like I want those 8 million.
9 million so
I
far.
think I think by next week it'll be 9 million because it's five
No,
hundred dollars.
this week.
This week is
This
nine
week.
million.
He's 9.06 million in the
That
hole
is
this
that
week.
is crazy.
And
That is
the thing
crazy.
about it is that he's got to be careful because he has to play or at least suited. I don't know exactly what the terms is. He has to be on the Jets roster for at least
Be
six
on the Jets
weeks,
roster. Yeah.
or else he doesn't qualify for free agency. And guess what? we get to do this dance all over again next
You
year.
know what? Maybe he's also counting on being traded.
Well, it's interesting you say that because over in down the turnpike in Philadelphia, Bryce Huff has eliminated any and all remnants and mentions of the Philadelphia Eagles on all of his socials.
Really
So,
interesting.
just saying,
Are we gonna kind of reverse it? Are you gonna be?
that
Are they gonna
can,
Uno
can
reverse?
you
That'll be
imagine
so.
that?
That'll
That
be
would be.
NFL script shit right there, bro.
Can you imagine if the Jets turn around and take? It's not going to happen. Okay, it's clearly not going to happen. But
Bro,
imagine if
everything
the
happens in the
Jets.
NFL. That's why we love
I
football
know.
season.
But imagine if the Jets turn around and trade Reddick back to Philly for Bryce Huff.
That's what I'm
That would
saying.
be the most Jet thing ever.
That
You know
would be
what
the
I'm
most
saying?
jet thing ever because the Eagles are gonna keep their pick.
Oh, that would be crazy. That would be crazy. But you know what? Hey, we don't know Devontae Adams. They keep talking about let's trade Hassan Reddick for Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams got hurt this past week,
Yeah,
and
he's out. He's out. I
so
know because it's kind of guaranteed my win, my second win now in fantasy.
so you're on a roll then.
So is Rice. Rice is out. Rice is going to be out for
Yes.
the season. Did you see that?
Did he's out for the season, bro?
I guarantee you that he's out for the season. He
I
did you
heard
see
he
what
got hurt
happened?
today.
Do you see how?
No, I haven't. I
Check
got
this
a
out.
notification.
Check this out. Mahomes throws an interception. Okay. It might have been. I think it was. Maybe this was the other one interception I was talking about. He throws an interception. Okay, into Chargers defender. Chargers defender runs down like 40 yards right where Mahomes is, where Rice is. Rice causes a fumble, and Patrick Mahomes, in trying to tackle the runner, okay, misses the runner and instead tackles his knee, hyperextends Rice's knee. So in the same play,
Oh my
not
god,
only does he
I have to watch
throws an
this.
interception, he takes out his one of his best, is not like if not the best wide receiver on the team right now.
I
So
have to watch that play.
it's crazy, crazy,
That
and they're still just 10-10. I think it's now the fourth quarter at this point, but it's kind of crazy. All right, so let's wrap this all up. How are we feeling about Jets and Sam Darnold, who is literally having an MVP season? He just won again. He just scored 3 more touchdowns.
I think he's still available in our fantasy
Yeah, I
football
know.
league.
I already like.
That's
Yeah,
kind of
I
crazy if
dropped my
you
home.
think about it, right?
Well, I wanted to drop my homes. It wouldn't let me do it, but I'm planning on dropping my homes for Sam Darnold.
No, don't do that,
Dude, Mahomes is
dude.
killing me, bro. Mahomes is killing me. As a matter of fact, I flipped him because
Dude,
listen. Last minute,
you can't do
I
that.
switched Mahomes. Last minute, I switched Mahomes for Purdy, and thank God I did. Thank God I did. I have no
Okay.
problem right now keeping Purdy as my main and having Sam Darnold, the most likely what is was tracking right now the MVP of the season.
And when Darnold starts to fail, because he probably will, you know what I'm saying? I can't. Let's put it this way: I can't see Darnold doing this for 17 games. You know what I'm saying? I can see Mahomes getting right like around week 6 and then going on this insane, stretch that could possibly win you a fantasy football
Rice
championship.
is out, and so is Pacheco.
So he's done more with less. You know what I'm saying? I
Not
don't
fantasy,
put anything. I don't put
not
anything.
fantasy points wise.
Well, but
Okay, let's not forget that the Chiefs are like the
that's
leading
true.
team
That's
with
true.
yards at the catch.
That's true. That's true. I find it insane that you would actually drop Mahomes for
Because I
Darnold.
have
But anyway,
Purdy went from Mister Irrelevant to Mister Reliable.
he's a fantasy football stud. San Francisco is not doing so hot. Did they win today?
I believe they are winning.
Okay. So he's a stud in fantasy football because I think he's leading the league in yards or
Yeah,
whatever.
he is. I mean, he's
Um,
yeah.
so, but
Oof. I
we'll
mean,
see.
as expected, which is why I also put Purdy in there. They're going against the Patriots. It's the 2 minute warning in the fourth quarter, 30-13.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So they might have gotten right. Um,
Yeah, no. So how are we feeling about Darnold and Vikings in London
I'd feel a
against
lot better
against?
if we won this past game. I'd be feeling a lot better if we had beaten the
All right,
Broncos.
let me ask you
You
this:
know,
if Aaron Rodgers plays and weather is good, what's your prediction?
see, I that defense is so. I'm not even looking at Sam Darnold because I truly believe that Sam Darnold will come back to earth when they play the Jets in terms of passing because he's gonna have to play against Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, and Michael Carter III. And not for nothing, the problem with the Jets is not the defense because the defense has been playing well, especially that secondary. So I don't think Sam Darnold is going to have that great of a game against the Jets. My worry is that he will do enough because our offense still isn't in sync. That's the worry that I have. I'm not worried about Sam Darnold, and I know the other flip to that is that that Vikings defense is a very opportunistic defense. You know, they find a way to turn you over, they find a way to sack you and stuff like that. So on that in that vein, this game worries me, and the fact that it's in London, the fact that the start we're gonna have to wake up early to watch it because I think it's like a 9 o'clock
Yeah, it's a 9
game
a.m. I'm
Eastern
actually
Standard Time.
last season the 9 a.m. games. I love them.
No, I
Actually,
know, but what I'm saying is that it might
coffee, a little
impact.
breakfast. Game is over before the middle of the day. If I don't
Yeah,
need, if there isn't a Giants game, I'm good with the rest of the day.
no, but what I'm saying is in terms of the players, right? Because now
Yeah, yeah, no, I
you're
know,
playing
yeah.
around, you're jet lagged and stuff like that. Then you're playing at a time when you're just really trying to get into the facility and kind of loosen up and stuff like that. So this game worries me, and
I wouldn't be worried because
I wouldn't be
I
so worried if we had won today. But even if we had won today, I think I'd still be a little worried because our offense, if you really look at it, they only really showed out with the New England Patriots right now. You know, other than that, they've been kind of mid, so to speak, as the youngins would say. You know, they're kind of mid. So I'm a little worried about the game. I'm not gonna lie.
look, I would be more than worried because I think Sam Darnold has been again. He's had a spectacular season so far, and I know he is on cloud nine, and maybe he does come down, but we're talking about scoring 28, 23, 34, and 31 against good defenses. Even though that first game was against the Giants, and we could say whatever you want to say about the Giants in that first game, I think the Giants have proven that we have a relatively good defense overall. When you consider what the Commanders are doing, and we didn't allow them to score the touchdown, we held the Cowboys to 20 points. We've done a serviceable job. So all in all, the Vikings' last four teams have had at least with the Giants an okay defense, and then three other really good defensive teams. The
Yeah.
defense has not stopped them from scoring over 20 points in every game. I would definitely be concerned.
Well, I this is what I'm gonna put. I'm gonna put this down right here so everybody can hear it.
Let's go.
I would be surprised if Sam Darnold throws for 250 yards. That would be shocking to me. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay.
That's what I'm going to say. I believe that this is going to be another slugfest. It's going to be one of these games where whoever's going to win is going to grind this thing out. I don't expect this to be high scoring at all. I really don't. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I
see,
have
I would agree. I would agree, only for the fact that one, the jet lag, and two, it's Britain, where it's like wet and rainy
yeah,
like
it's
70%
weird.
of the year. So,
It's
being
a
that
weird
we're
place to play
essentially
football.
kind of in our rainy season again, I would expect that the weather's not going to be so great next week. So, if the weather is humid and all that, and there isn't a lot of great ball control, I think that it will be very similar to today's game.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. We'll see. Because
Aaron
again,
Rodgers needs to be better. That offense needs to be better because
Aaron
you know what?
Rodgers needs to actually be on the field. Let's say that. So if Aaron Rodgers plays, then I give you guys a 50-50 shot.
I'm pretty
If
sure
Aaron
he'll be there.
Rodgers does not play, I do not give you guys a shot.
I'm pretty sure he's going to be there.
All right,
I'm
we'll
pretty
see.
sure. So,
I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys
Yep.
for listening all the way to the end. Don't forget to like, rate, share, and subscribe. And until next time, go Giants.
And go Jets.
All right.
Later, people.
Peace out.